crack on. Hey Toby, how you doing?
How are we doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. How's South Africa?
Warm, yeah. It's we had rain this morning. A lot of different environments for a lot of players, especially after lockdown and being not even on holiday for a couple of years. I think it's been a bit of a shock for some. But yeah, change of environment's nice, and being privileged to be able to travel is not something to to let pass you by. So it's a nice opportunity for us to not just prepare well for different opposition and exciting time, but also to enjoy some time together and build some cultural stuff as well, and some togetherness as a team, which has been difficult to do over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I bet it's a really good opportunity to learn more about your players and get to know them really well over this fortnight.
Yeah, and each other. We assume that they, because they play together, they, back in the day, there would be a lot more of a interaction on and off the pitch. And yeah, I appreciate things are getting back to normal, and those things are becoming more normal. But you can't undo the 2 years or whatever the time frame actually is of inactivity on that socialising and cohesive bit. So yeah, we've been quite deliberate about trying to fast track some of that as well.
Yeah, I bet the facilities are top notch there as well. How are preparations going for the game on the weekend?
Yeah, obviously we've come to SAS, so it's the Stellenbosch Sport Academy. So from that point of view, it's been good. They've looked after us really well. We've got all that we need. So yeah, preparation has been different because obviously different surroundings, different temperatures, different times of day, transition, coming off planes to train. But the positive side of it is that because we've got more time, we can develop our individuals and spend time growing them as people and also as more knowledgeable rugby players. So it's not just about preparation for the game, it's also preparing ourselves to be better. With a young team with lots of young players in it, these are opportunities that are gold for us.
Yeah, young team, lots of opportunities. That you set with your selection. What's it like? No injuries, hopefully. You haven't taken any injured players up there.
No, we didn't bring in any injuries. We had, obviously, haven't got any internationals here. We've got people that were injured were best served at home unless they were going to be fit to play in week one, because obviously we will have a number of players joining us for next week. And yeah, it doesn't make any sense in not putting their health and well-being first, because we want them back on the pitch as soon as possible. We also had Matt Provorou from a COVID point of view before we left, so that was a bit of a last-minute change, which is unfortunate. So he hasn't travelled either. But apart from that, anyone that's fit has travelled.
All right. So are there reinforcements coming next week for the following fixture?
Yeah, we'll have some of the international boys coming out next week, and people that are fit to play, and that will be determined upon obviously game where they are mentally and physically, really. So we'll take it on an individual basis, and we'll see where that takes us. And obviously we're catching up with them this week on their return to the region, making sure that they're all fit and well, assess them on an individual basis, and then a number of them will join us next week, which would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Alun Jones, will he be in the mix?
I'm not. Will he be in the mix? As I said, on an individual basis, he'll be determined on that. We'll have a look at where everybody is, both physically and mentally. And the people that we think that can contribute against the Stormers will travel, or people that won't. And we've got some big games coming up after that, 3 Welsh derbies in the real crux of our season. So we want to make sure that we've got fit soldiers and enthusiastic people that are fit and able to perform well for the Ospreys and give us the best chance to win.
Yeah, absolutely. The Lions beat Cardiff, beat Munster.
Yeah.
They'll be a tough nut to crack, I'm sure. How prepared are you for what they'll have in store for you?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is, as you said, we alluded to some of the physical challenge around the heat and different. I mean, not one Northern Hemisphere side has won a game in South Africa, so that gives you the magnitude of, the competition over this side of the world, especially when you've got a lot of returning South African players, national players into their teams, and they're peaking, getting ready for, no doubt, their Test series against Wales in the summer. So from that point of view, it's a very, very stiff challenge, but one we're really looking forward to, because it's not often you can try and get a first these days, and if we can be the first team to win on Friday, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Just finally from me, Toby, it was a disappointing weekend all round for Welsh rugby last weekend. I know you weren't in action. When the national team loses to Italy, there's always an inquest, a review. What's your take on it? Does there need to be a real deep look at Welsh rugby from top to bottom?
Well, I mean, I've seen some of the media aspects. I'm not, my own opinion really hasn't changed from when I was asked this question previously, which is we've all got positive intent and we all want the same things. We want successful national teams, successful regions, successful structures to get the best talent through into those regions, whatever that looks like. But it needs to be all joined up, collaborative, all pulling in the same direction, all resourced well, because it's not going to happen by accident, and everyone's got a part to play, which is really important. But if you want a process that follows it, you've got to get the top and the bottom right, and then the bottom grows into the top. So from that point of view, everyone's talking about the doom and gloom. Perhaps the way to look at it is it's an opportunity to really look at it and make some positive changes if changes are necessary, that we make it a little bit less circumstantial and a bit more deliberate, like other nations have done, to make sure that you can keep the talent pool strong, current, and fighting for competition for places at every level, and that's where you get successful teams from top to bottom.
Thanks, Toby.
Welcome. Next. Anybody?
Yeah. Sorry, Jan de Koning, Rugby 365. There's obviously always the question about basing yourself at sea level and then flying up for the game. When are you guys firstly flying up, and the reasoning behind that? Because there's so many theories about how you deal with it.
Yeah, well, we leave tomorrow to play Friday. So our time at altitude will be probably minimal. In relation to training adaptation, obviously, is from as you said, there's memory theories. We've got people that have played there before, and we obviously use their experience and what that's like, and we've tried to not replicate the uncomfortableness that we know that's gonna come for us, because it'll be different to playing, in Wales and in the URC in the Northern Hemisphere. So yeah, we've prepared environmental factors for us. We've done a lot of work before we got here. Simon Church, our head of strength and conditioning, has done a lot of hypoxic work to this point to give us the best chance. But yeah, there is home field advantage for sure. But we've got to make sure that we are ready to embrace that challenge and see where it takes us.
Refresh my memory. How many of your guys have been at Ellis Park or have played at Ellis Park, both at international, obviously not at domestic level, but at Ellis Park? Well,
the international players aren't here, so as I've already mentioned, so they won't be involved. The ones that have just finished, there's a number of them that have played. So Michael Collins, for example, obviously he's been here with Super Rugby. Tommy Booth has been here, Reece Webb, Bradley Davis, etc. So we've had a number of senior players in leadership roles. So yeah, but nothing substitutes for doing it yourself. We are a young team, we know that. We make no apologies for that, and it'll be a hell of an experience for them both physically and mentally. But this is what's great about growing a young team. You get yourself, opportunities to experience different things and perform under different pressures. And we see this as an opportunity to see if we can do that.
And final one from me. Obviously, you would have done your homework on the Lions. What aspect of their game do you think you are most vulnerable perhaps at, or do you think is their biggest threat?
Well, if I look at, I think partly the game, they start games very well. They score a lot of their tries in the first 20 minutes of the game. They try and get on top of you quickly. So we need to make sure that we're ready for that onslaught, as it were. So we need to certainly approach it with the right mindset. And secondly, they also have a very strong counter-attack element. So they want to be positive wherever they can and try and stretch you from both sides of the pitch and stress your defences as much as they can. So we need to basically get control of their dangerous runners, especially on the edges. And if we can do that, they'll give us a chance. But it's a tough challenge, as we've already mentioned.
Tobias Mark it is, albeit without a functioning laptop camera, so you'll have to bear with me.
Right.
Yeah, you mentioned your internationals or current internationals not with you. Is George out there?
No, he's not. He's not fully training yet. I think we spoke in previous weeks about that. We've had and I know, as I've said, the last 5% is always hardest to get, and he wasn't quite right. We don't think he's too far away, but again, he's a big man whose knee will respond differently to other people that have the same injuries. Everyone's different, so we're governed by the symptoms that happen once he trains. So we need to make sure that we get control of that, because like with all of our players, as I've said to everybody who normally comes on, we want players not back for a week. We want them back for good. So we've got to make sure that we get ourselves in a position that we can get healthy players that stay fit.
Would you expect him to be available for the derbies, Toby?
Yeah, that's the aim. As we said, we expected him for Zebra, but there's been a couple of setbacks of how his knees reacted to training. We don't think they're serious setbacks. We're getting on top of that. So you've got to build endurance into an injury as well, so it doesn't react every time it's stressed. Your body stresses and it reacts. So we've taken measures, and the rehab stuff that we're doing, we're confident we'll get him back as soon as his body will let them. But that is a few weeks away yet. I'd like to think that he's certainly back for that, for sure.
So with Alun Wyn, will he be flying out next week with the other lads?
So you're going to ask the same question, are you?
In a different way.
I didn't ask the last time. As I said to you, all of those international boys, every single one, including Alun Wyn Jones, will be treated on an individual basis. We haven't decided, and we're in the process of deciding what's best for them after an international campaign, which is really, really difficult. And obviously, as everyone knows, has had a very emotional end to it. Is what's best for them and to perform well. There's no point in bringing people out that aren't in the right physical or mental frame of mind to perform well, firstly. And secondly, with some of those players, there's always been a plan for people not to play in these 2 weeks. And I'm obviously not at liberty to say who those are. The team selection will tell you that. And I'm not trying to be difficult. It's just that it's a bit of a movable feast. We're this week's a good opportunity for us to assess where those players are, so we can make those informed decisions.
How did you feel Alun Wyn went last week, and do you see him playing an important role for Wales at the World Cup?
I expected to be asked about Alun Wyn because of obviously the media interest. Let's start by saying that you don't get 150 caps by accident. So let's get that, out there. Everything that he's got, he's earned. And, people always talk about whether he should have been playing or not playing, or would he play well enough, and he didn't do this and he didn't do that. We can go through anyone's game and find things that we think aren't right. Ultimately, the person that had to decide was Wayne. He's the person that worked with him on a daily basis. He wasn't with us, so we couldn't comment. He must have thought he was good enough to go because he picked him. And no player's ever going to say no when your country comes asking for you to play, especially someone as passionate as Al is around playing for his country. So he went off. Everyone's talking about him. I think there was a point different when he left the pitch. So, you know, if there are people trying to hang a performance around an individual's neck, I don't think that's correct. I think you win as a team and you lose as a team. And coaches do things with the best intent. If they think they were the best people to win the game, I'm sure that's the reason they picked him.
I guess he'd been out for 5 months as well, you know, which also needs to be factored in. Yeah,
100%. I mean, I think it's extremely, you know, I'm sure like every player, you know, we're in contact with my players, not just internationally. Every player looks at what they can do better on a weekly basis. But the one thing that I can tell you with assurance, and we've had this conversation around Gareth Anscombe before, is we want to be in a situation where they've got confidence in their body and they can physically prepare and play at their best. And to do that, there's no substitute for playing. So from that point of view, of course, there's going to be a bit of rust around and a bit of, a bit of sharpness, if you like. But again, ultimately, the people that put him out there are the ones who basically have the greatest belief in him, and obviously the belief in his talent. And they obviously thought he was good enough to do the job. And you know, I don't think that his performance warranted any more specific attention than others. I understand they're going to get that because that's who he is. But from our point of view, we see him as a massive part of what we do. You know, he's an iconic player for Wales, an iconic player for the region. And we'll be making sure that we get him to finish the rest of the season strong with us and put his best foot forward.
Yeah, I've only got 2 more questions. How did you feel your boys went, the Ospreys players went largely in the Six Nations? I'm talking, you know, someone like Owen Watkin, Tom Francis, Adam Beard, they're all there, Jack Morgan as well.
Yeah, well, obviously, I suppose the biggest advert carried on to the conversation is that they all played significant amount of time, which means that they're, you know, a lot of them were first choice, which is the biggest compliment they can get. But actually, in relation to performance, you know, I thought Adam Beard, you know, obviously they put him in a leadership role. He led the line out, played every minute, you know, from that point of view, and took ownership of that. Seeing the emergence of Jack Morgan and Dowie Lake, you know, that's great for all of us, because it cements what we're trying to do with young players and give them opportunity to, to stake a claim for the Ospreys and see where their talent can take them. So they were great. And, you know, people like Gar Tom, exactly the same. Tommy Francis, you know, he's a seasoned campaigner. He played well. Cuthbert got back and obviously did something. Gareth Anscombe obviously played a few cameo roles. But Owen Watkin is an example, I think, you know, as Adam Beard, but probably before so, who had been probably on the fringes or left out, and then had cemented their first choice starting position by the way that he played. So, you know, I'm delighted for Owen because, he hasn't had it easy, but the sign of a good player is how quickly they learn and how resilient they are, and a determination to prove the coach wrong and that they deserve to be there. So, look, on the whole, I think from an Ospreys point of view, despite a disappointing campaign, you know, we've certainly seen some of our boys put their hand up and take a step forward. And again, the exciting bit for us is that we've got that talent coming back to us, to finish the end of the season as strong as we can.
Dowie Lake took some big strides forward, didn't he? He's looking some player.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you can see why, you know, Wayne and his team wanted to get him out there because he brings something else to the game. The longer he continues to work on his specialisms about throwing and scrummaging, the better he'll become, because he certainly has an impact in the loose. So from that point of view, yeah, it's an exciting time for him and obviously for us.